You have probably heard the sad news by now. James Gandolfini, the actor who brilliantly crafted the character of Tony Soprano, has died. The HBO show, The Sopranos, and Gandolfini's Tony in particular, made an impression on everyone who saw the show, including other gangsters. Louis Ferrante was one of those made men. He was a member of the New York Gambino family. Lou served 8 years for racketeering and, in fact, was in prison when the show was first on the air. We spoke to Lou on Thursday. Hi, Lou.
Hey, how are you, Brent, and everybody in Canada? How's it going?
Doing great. Thank you for joining us. I want you to walk us through where you were when you heard the news. What were you doing Wednesday night when you found out?
I produce. I'm the host of my own television show, Inside the Gangster's Code, and I'm producing several others. So I went and I called up an old mob buddy of mine, ex-mob guy. He's no longer in that life. I did time with him, and we were together at one of those outside cafe/bars in New York City, in Manhattan.
Right.
And his wife called on a cell phone. And him and I are sitting across from each other, and his face looks really serious. I know right away something happened. I'm thinking maybe a death in the family or something on his, in his family. And he hangs up the phone. He says, bad news. He goes, Tony Soprano died. I don't know if we could curse on your station, but, S-T. Mm-hmm. And then just we had, little prophetic words back and forth, philosophical phrases back and forth, rather like, we're here and gone, life is fleeting, at least he did something with his life, what are you going to do? And it was almost like, looking back at it, like we did lose somebody, just the emptiness didn't last as long because it's not like, a real family member.
But it's interesting.
For that moment, that's what it felt like.
He was an amazing actor. What was it about Gandolfini's Tony Soprano that connected with real mobsters? He
portrayed it identically. Nobody in America, and I'm sure Canada as well, throughout the world, ever had a really good look. Since the Godfather movies came out, that was the old-time mobsters, the old-timers that brought me up in that life. They were more like the guys from the Godfather. But my generation, the contemporaries that I was around, they were like, Tony Soprano and his crew, and Chris and Paulie Walnuts, and, the whole crew, the way they acted, the way they interacted, the way he was, the boss that he was. People picture the mob, pinstripe suits and a violin case with a dark Cadillac. These guys, Chris wore jeans and a T-shirt.
Right.
So Tony Soprano had slacks on. He's living in Jersey, right over here. The way he walked and talked, the way he did business, the hanging out at the pork store, it was more real. It's like when we watched it, I was in the can when it came out, and the entire mob, I'm away with 5 New York families, Bonanno family, Colombo family, Genovese family, Lucchese family, Gambino. Everybody ran into the television room to watch The Sopranos every week. By then, I was an avid reader. I'm reading history, biographies, science, philosophy. I wanted to get away from that. So they'd say, Louis, come on, this is great. It's just like us. I don't want to watch that garbage, guys. We're trying to get away from that. That's why we're in jail.
So you missed the show?
And meanwhile,
wait, you missed this? You didn't see the show when it was on?
When it was airing, I never watched one episode. To me, because I regretted the things that I had done.
Right.
And I really, really, was weighed down by a lot of guilt and remorse when I was in prison. So I couldn't sit in a television room and watch things that I did every day.
But what did those guys,
okay with it.
When they would come back from the TV room, what did they say to you?
They'd come back and they'd stop by my cell. One guy after another would come by my cell and recap the whole show. Oh, yeah. You got to see what he did this week. It was just like, when Tony did this, remember when John did that? Or remember when Little Vic Amuso or Little Vic Arena did that? And they'd equate him with a live boss that, we knew. And I'll tell you how I eventually caught up with The Sopranos. I wrote my memoir, and Lorraine Bracco, who was Dr. Melfi, she picked up the rights to my memoir. She bought them for 12 months. She wasn't able to make them into a movie, but she tried, and she was a lovely person. I said, wow, I never watched The Sopranos. This was her hit. Let me go and get a couple of the DVDs and watch them, so at least I could have something to talk about when I meet with her.
You mentioned Dr. Melfi, and one of the things that made Tony's character so great was that he had this complicated inner life. Was that a stretch for you, or did you identify with that?
That was the only stretch for me, because if we had a boss, let's say in the Gambino family, that went to a psychiatrist, unless he was trying to hoodwink the government and get out of like a federal indictment,
Yeah.
the family would kill the guy in a minute. They couldn't risk that he would sit across from some highly educated woman and tell about all his problems. When is he going to talk about the body that he buried or the order that he gave? And the family would fear that and probably conspire against him. So that was the only stretch. But I understood for the entertainment world why they had to do that.
Do you think that mobsters all over the world are talking about the death of James Gandolfini?
Guaranteed, 1,000%. As I said, everybody who's ex-mob or, guys on the fringe that I did bump into last night, I don't deal with the mob. I don't see them anymore, but I do bump into ex-mobsters that I'm still in touch with. Anybody I saw last night, it was all they were talking about. It was almost like, the death of John Gotti, when John Gotti died. Let me give you another example, Brent.
Sure.
I had some guys I bumped into from another family in New York. They were at a wedding, and they were telling me that the guy Vito, I don't know what his real name is, but the guy who played Vito, who was the heavyset gangster who became a homosexual and then went on the lam.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember the show.
Yeah, for sure.
The guy Vito was at a wedding. The guy who played him, the actor, was at a wedding, a real mob wedding. He knew somebody, invited him to the wedding, whatever. He don't know. He went to the wedding and he's at the bar. And these real gangsters that I know bumped into him and saw him at the bar. And they cursed him and told him to leave. And, from what I understand, they threw him out of the wedding. This is a story that got back to me. And I said, why the hell would you throw that poor man out of the wedding? He's an actor. No, what do you mean? He's gay, and he double-crossed the family. I go, guys, he's an actor. And obviously I'm not going to try to explain to them that they should have tolerance for all types of people. That's not what the subject matter was. I just saw it as these guys are lunatics, that they believed in the show so much that they threw the actor out of the wedding, and they're cursing him. So, this is the impact, that show had on the real mafia.
An amazing character, a terrific actor. Lou, thank you very much for talking to us today.
Hey, thank you. Take care, Brent.
That was Louis Ferrante, a former mafioso and member of the Gambino family. He's the author of Mob Rules, What the Mafia Can Teach the Legitimate Businessman, and he's the host of Inside the Gangster's Code on the Discovery Channel. This is Day 6. Day 6. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. We're at CBC Day 6.